Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast /YouTube/ We Do It All. As always, I am your host, John. Very happy to be here. My dog, JHill. What's up, bro?
What's good, Jay?
How you doing?
Chilling, man. Chilling, man. Ready to get it in. Been seeing a lot of good basketball, so ready to talk about it.
Okay. Who we got here today, JHill?
We got my dog, my brother from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, by way of Atlanta. We got my guy Kai Conklin in the building. What's good, guy?
I'm glad to be here.
Kai, tell us a little bit about your basketball background, and JHill just mentioned you're from Atlanta, so you must be feeling real good with these Hawks potentially making this finals.
Yeah. So I'm from Ottawa. I'm based in Ottawa, but my entire family is from Atlanta. So obviously they're my favorite team, and so I guess I'll go into a bit of my basketball background real quick. I played in high school, and then my boy Jay got me this job with the team. I was video coordinator with Nipissing men's basketball team, and then last year, I guess, or 2 years ago, before COVID, I was the head of basketball operations. So yeah, that's basically all my background so far. But yeah.
Okay. Well, Kai, we're very, very happy to have you on today, man. So, what we got here? We just got basically a playoff recap, Kai. We just kind of want to pick your brain and see how you've been feeling about past series, future series, and current series that we got going on. Is that cool with you? We can do that
for sure, of course.
Okay, let's do it, man. So let's start with this crazy West Coast that did nobody expect for the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Clippers to be in the Western Conference Finals. So Kai, man, tell us, how have you been feeling about this series? You can start with game one if you want, or just talk about any highlights that you've been feeling so far.
Yeah, so I'd say my biggest surprise with this Western Conference, right?
Yeah.
I'd say it's been DeAndre Ayton. Like he's been a beast, and I guess that class in general. And surprisingly, I was looking over the stats and what I seen. I think you could argue that he's been the best player on the Suns, which is pretty crazy. D Book's done his thing, but I think a mildly hot take would be he's been the best. I think that's the biggest takeaway I'd say from this series.
Okay. And, we saw that game one where the Suns won 120-114. And, Booker had that crazy 40-point triple-double without Chris Paul, man. So, and then, on game two, we saw DeAndre Ayton's crazy game winner. Game three, we saw Paul George and Reggie Jackson go absolutely off for 27 and 23. Game four, we saw the absolute lowest scoring game of the season, right? So out of all these games so far, like which has been the most interesting to you?
That's a good question. I think I'm gonna go with game two, the one where Ayton had that putback, right?
Yeah.
I like that game a lot. I thought there was enough scoring, enough defending. And what my biggest takeaway, I guess, from that would be, I think a talking point was at the end with the 30-minute delay. That was crazy. I was doing a little workout. I was on the elliptical, and I had the mute. I was muted, and I just keep looking back. I'm like, what's going on? It's like 10 minutes pass. I'm like, yo, like this is getting ridiculous. And then the next play, it was like, but what I found cool was like each play was killer. What was it? The Booker, that tough Book shot, and then at the end that Ayton shot, and it was just a really cool, fun game, even though there was that long wait at the end.
Definitely, I gotta agree with you on that one, man. And everyone is talking about that DeAndre Ayton putback, which was crazy, man. And like how you said, DeAndre Ayton's been playing like out of his mind this entire series. But I gotta show some love to my guy Jay Crowder. Like that pass was crazy. Like as soon as I saw it, y'all, I was like, he threw it behind the backboard, perfect. Like all DeAndre had to do was tip it in. Crazy, man. So I definitely wanted to give some love to my guy Jay Crowder. But JHill, man, what game has been the most exciting for you in this Suns versus Clippers series?
Yeah, I think definitely it's been back and forth. But I have to go with game two as well. I think that just strictly from the standpoint of, I personally thought that the Clippers had that game won. They made all the right plays down the PG. I mean, PG was killing that game. He looked like the PG of old, just taking big shots, wanted it. And I think we really saw what he can do with Kawhi, because Kawhi, what we know, he sometimes just demands the ball, and sometimes PG defers to him. But we saw just the excellence of PG, and all he had to do was hit one or two, but he couldn't hit one. And we saw what Phoenix did, and I think, like Kai said, it was just a great game back and forth. We saw both how well coached the Suns are with Monty Williams and with Ty Lue making adjustments late game. Even adding Boogie Cousins, and you talked about Jay Crowder with that pass, having him defend the ball, and Jay Crowder still being able to get the pass off, which was ultimately a perfect pass. I think it was a bit of a defensive breakdown, letting DeAndre Ayton get to the rim like that. But I think that like Kai said about the delay, I think game 2 had everything you would want as a fan. So definitely game 2.
Yeah, I definitely got to jump on the bandwagon with this one, guys. Game 2 as well for me, because that was such a close game, 104, 103. That was one of those games where you're at the edge of your seat the whole game watching, man. So I got to agree with you on this one. So my guy Kai, man, let me ask you. We just saw this game 4. We saw the Suns take it in this 84-80. Will they be able to close them out heading to Phoenix for this game 5?
I don't know. What I've been noticing in the past 2 playoffs is like anything's possible. It's been crazy. Like if we go back to the bubble, we saw the Nuggets pull that off. And like usually you can kind of like NBA is kind of predictable because usually the best team wins. But we've seen with the last 2 years with the Nuggets and the Trey and the Hawks, and there's so many examples. Utah even was hooping, even Dallas pushing it to game 7. Anything's possible. And like 3-1 leads are not safe at all. But I got to say, I think Suns have their number. Just I don't think Kawhi is back. I read a report that he can't even fly because of his knee. That's crazy. So I think he's done. And I just think, I don't know, PG, I just don't think he can carry them over the hump. And I got to say, I think it ends next game.
I gotta agree with you on this one, man. I've been saying this for a minute, but I don't think that PG is your 1A guy. He's more of a 1B. He can't be the only person on the team, the only the main scorer right on the team. He can't do that. He needs to have Kawhi to go to in these crunch moments, because as we've seen, man, like PG just kind of crumbles, man. Like he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, great regular season player, but when the lights get brightest and everyone's looking at PG, he's showing that he kind of crumbles, man. So I would have to agree with you on this one, man, and tell you that, yes, like the Phoenix is going to be able to close them out, and Chris Paul will punch his ticket to the NBA Finals for the first time ever. JHill, you agree with us on this, man? You think the Suns are going to close them out?
Absolutely. And that was my early prediction. I had the Suns in 5. Just strictly the fact that I think, and I'm happy to see it, is the small market teams have been doing great in these playoffs. I think that it's good to see that CP's going there. I've never been the biggest CP fan, but seeing him in the finals, I think he really deserves it. I think they're a well-coached team. And going back to Talking Stick, I think they're one of the best fan bases in these playoffs, if not in the league, and we're really starting to see that. So, yeah, definitely Suns in 5, Book to the finals, CP to the finals.
Okay.
They can do.
All right. So then now that we got our predictions and we got what we think is going to happen, let's talk about a little bit more of the playmaking, man. So, Kai, let me ask you, why do you think that the Clippers seem to be struggling so much against the Suns out there?
That's a good question. Well, I just think it's based on talent, really. They got to be fair, CP just came back, and we saw with Tatum how much that bothered him with COVID. I'm not sure if CP had too much effects of COVID. I didn't read into too much of that, so I'm not too sure. I can't speak too much on that, but it just comes down to talent. You got CP3, you got Book, you got DeAndre Ayton, and as good as the role players on the Clippers have been, you got Reggie, Luke Kennard, he's hit or miss. You got a few of those. Like you said, I completely agree. PG is a 1B, PG is a 1B, and I just think it comes purely down to talent. There's not much else I can say about that. I think when the full Phoenix squad is going at it, there's not much that the Clippers can do to stop it. And we got to give a big shout out to Campaign. I think me and Jay used to roast him. Like I think most people did, because at a certain point, it's like, you know, you can't have faith in this guy. That report where Chicago came out and they were like, one practice in, we knew this guy was not made for the NBA. Like, come on. You know?
We knew Campaign for his handshakes with Russell Westbrook, not his game.
Right.
And he is hooping. So if just too much talent with the Suns and too much lack of talent with the Clippers, I think it would be completely different if Kawhi was there. But I think that's what it comes down to, talent right now.
Okay. Well, see, the thing that I believe that the Clippers are struggling so much against the Suns, it really is they don't really match up very well on defense, man. Like every single time that the Suns come down court, it's either D-Book or Chris Paul coming off a snake screen, a snake pick and roll, so they could get that switch. Because every single time that they get that Chris Paul comes down court, gets a high screen, now he has his defender on his hip. And he's got Zubac, who he doesn't want to step up. He's not going to want to step up. DeMarcus Cousins, great player, but unfortunately can't keep up with Chris Paul in the perimeter. So every single time down court, they run this high pick and roll, get their defender on the hip, and it's just like playing 4-on-5 at that point. You know, it's shout out your Atlanta, man. Shout out Trae Young, because the Suns will have either the lob open if Zubac or DeMarcus Cousins steps up. If they don't step up, they have the shot open, man. They can get to the hoop. So I think that it's just, at the end of the day, the Clippers just don't match up defensively, man. Like how you mentioned, it's just a roster wise. But JHill, is that what you feel about why the Clippers are struggling so much, or how do you feel?
Absolutely. I think just in terms of, like I mentioned, the role players not stepping up. But I think we even have to just dial it back a bit and see what got them there. And this was a Game 6 out of this world 39-point performance, if I'm correct, from Terrence Mann. I mean, if you're relying on that to get past a team in the Western Conference Finals, then it's just not going to work. And ultimately, they lack the depth, especially with Kawhi out. Even before that, I never was comfortable in their point guard play. I mean, Reggie Jackson had a stellar performance in round 2 of the playoffs against Utah, but just ultimately consistency wise, they just haven't amounted to what you need from a Western Conference champion, potential NBA champion caliber team. So just those deficiencies have come back to haunt them, even going back to Game 2, which was a must-win game for them. And I just don't see them ultimately coming back from that. Just from all the things you guys both mentioned.
Okay. I think one thing I'll add is we see I've been seeing a lot on Twitter. They talk about the drop coverage, right? And how it's been failing so much because we got shooters everywhere, right? And it's recreating this opportunity for the mid-range to be reborn and stuff. And I'm just curious, like, I just don't understand why coaches keep going to the drop coverage. Everyone's going to kill that. Everyone. Like, we see it. I remember the first time I was like, this is ridiculous, was with Steph versus the Blazers. They just kept drop coverage on him and he killed them. He murdered them like we'd expect. And I think that's another takeaway with Zubac on the floor. They're usually in a drop coverage, which they have to. It kind of makes sense, right? But I just want to know, like, go small or something. Small ball works for y'all sometimes. But it's just the drop coverage to me makes no sense.
Yeah, Kim. I'm actually happy you brought that point up, Kai, because I think to myself, I say, okay, like, because they've been running, coach has been running these drop coverages for some years now, most famously, like last year, like that's the reason why the Heat got to the championship, because when they played the Bucks, the Brook Lopez kept having to play drop coverage, and Duncan and Duncan and Tyler Hero and all the Heat shooters were just lighting him up, right? It made me think, okay, like why are they playing drop coverage? And to be honest with you, Kai, like it wasn't until this year, me watching your Atlanta Hawks, that I realized why teams play in that drop coverage, man. Is because if you don't, you kind of every single time, if you have a a mobile big, right? Let's use John Collins or Clint Capella for an example. Every time that Trae Young gets down court, as long like I mentioned with Chris Paul, as long as he gets the defender on his hip or behind him, where he does that thing where he just stops and pulls. As long as he does that, he's got the lob if he wants to, because he's got his man behind him. The big man's gonna have to come up. If he comes up, I'm throwing a lob. If he doesn't come up, I'm getting to the foul line, man. So I just think that, to answer your question, you kind of have to, or because it's kind of like pick your way that you want to die. Like, how do you want me to kill you? It's it really is that. It really is that.
What I was thinking too. Yeah, you don't have a choice, right? Like, it's just like you have to do it at this point. It's not like, okay, we're gonna win with this drop coverage. It's just more like we're not gonna lose with this drop coverage,
Right.
Exactly, and even Ty Lue, man, like Ty Lue went ahead and try to go with the small ball and went with Morris for game 1, right? I want to read off this stat, like, guys, like the Suns shot 90% in the paint in game 1 when they go small ball. So it really is like, which way do you want me to kill you, man? Because it's just gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah, Suns are a bad matchup for the small ball lineup, I think. Yeah,
definitely. So let me ask you one more question something you mentioned about. You said that Kawhi Leonard, if he plays, the series is different. Do you believe that the Clippers win, or is it they lose in less games, or like in losing 7?
It's a toss up at that point. I think that would have been an amazing series. It sucks that he's out. If I had to pick, I'm going with Clippers. I'm going with Clippers just because I think they have the best player on the court. And Kawhi, I wanted him to see he guarded the best players a few times. We saw him, he'd switch out to Luka, but I just want to see him, okay, this is it. I understand it's tiring. And if that's why I do understand, but I just want to see him. I think he could lock down on Booker as much as possible. Booker will get his points no matter what. Superstars do that. But I just think that's what it comes down to. If Kawhi is guarding their best player and he's hooping like the way he was, I think he was hooping the best. I got to say, I think even better than KD. He was ridiculous, shooting, I think, 60% or something crazy like that. So I got to give it to the Clips. If Kawhi was there.
JHill, you feel the same way, or are you still taking the Suns?
Absolutely. I've doubted Kawhi too many times. I kept telling friends this during when they were playing Dallas was, man, this is looking like 2019 Kawhi, just from the fact that he's killing the Mavs on double teams. They're sending everything at them, and he's just going to work. And I think, like Kai said, best player on the floor. It doesn't matter how many weapons they have. I think that the Suns have. I think that the Clippers just would have the best player on the floor, and that tends to win you games down the stretch in playoffs and in series. It would have gone 6 or 7, but I think the Clippers would have had the firepower with that 1-2 punch, the 1B, as we were saying, with Paul George. So
you, if Kawhi plays, you give it to the Clippers?
Absolutely, Clippers in 7.
Okay, yeah, man, you guys are trying to sway me, man, but I don't know. The Suns are just looking real good, y'all. Like, I have the Suns winning the championship, man. So to be I'm not gonna front. I didn't have them at the beginning of the season, but like the way they playing right now, like, man, like I don't know if even if Kawhi, that definitely would have been a good series. But Kai, let me ask you this question. And when I wrote up this script, I actually got real excited, when I got a chance to ask you this question, because this question really, it's a lot, man. It's a lot of layers to it. So go ahead and feel free to answer this however you feel, man. So Kai, let me ask you, who has been the season series MVP so far, and who has been the most important player? Now that's 2 different things. Now, and I hope if you need me to do some explaining, I'll do some explaining. Or do you get what I'm saying?
Like this series?
Between the Suns and the Clippers.
Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
The second part was who is the most important player. So the first part is who's the MVP and who's the most important player.
Okay. I got MVP. I got to go with DeAndre Ayton. I think that it might be a bit of a hot take. He's done his thing on defense. He's not the best defender, but he's a solid defender.
He's a good defender.
Yeah. Like, and at the beginning of the career, he wasn't that great, and he's gotten better. So I got to give it to him. He came up with that game winner, and he's been their leading scorer, I think, almost every game except for the D-Book game. Most important player.
It can be on the Clippers as well too, if you want to pick
Clippers,
a player.
it's just tough to give it when they're not winning. And like their star is, he's here and there. That's a tough one because I want to see D-Book, but I might say DeAndre Ayton too. I gotta say I'm gonna do a little hot take. I'm gonna do a little hot take to this series. I think it's important because DeAndre Ayton he kills them when they go small, like you were saying, right? And I gotta say, and that's the Clippers' best lineup. I think that's where they play the best when they don't have to play Zubac. So I'm gonna go with DeAndre Ayton for both. A little bit of a hot take.
Okay, DeAndre Ayton for both. JHill, you got yours ready?
Yeah, I think definitely the most valuable player for me is CP, and that's just simply from the fact that he gets them going. Like, obviously they won 1 or 2 games. Was it 1 without him? But I think CP, that 1 without CP. But just in terms of leadership and having that presence on the floor, CP's their most valuable player, but their most important player, I have to agree with Kai on that, has been DeAndre Ayton. I think without him, they wouldn't be having the success throughout the playoffs, but especially in this series. Regardless of if he finished that last second attempt in the second game 2, he's just been dominant on both sides of the ball, both sides of the floor, and I'm just praying that Wiseman can amount to this as well. So that's kind of my comparison and hope. Just in the back of my mind, those have been my thoughts throughout the series. So CP MVP so far, and Ayton, not Wiseman, has been the most important.
JHill too caught up on the Warriors right now. But for me, I would have to agree with you, Kai, which is why I'm happy you said Ayton, man, because that's not a hot take at all. Ayton is my MVP of the season series too, man. He's been getting it done on like how you mentioned, on offense and on defense. And I think the biggest thing that really nobody's mentioned yet is the fact that how he's so he can be used in so many ways on defense, man. Like I saw a couple of possessions last game where DeAndre Ayton is out there on the perimeter dancing. I mean, on defense, he's able to keep up, and that's the biggest problem with the Clippers and most bigs is that the fact that teams have to hide them, teams have to play drop coverage, and having Ayton be able to be so mobile out there, man, is huge. So
that's huge. I'm just thinking. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you did.
It's just like it's so rare to have a big that can switch on the perimeter. Like Rudy Gobert is the 3-time defensive player of the year. He gets embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's embarrassed, and DeAndre Ayton, I think, someone, it's going to be odd, but I always say this, Kevon Looney, me and Jay have talked about this. I think sometimes he does a good job on the perimeter, shockingly. Sometimes, and Clint Capella, those guys, I think it's just such a big asset. It's the biggest asset you can have to have those guys switch on the perimeter.
Yeah. If you can have a big who can consistently play in the perimeter, even like decently, like mediocrely, man, like that just makes like the world of a difference, man. I know JHill know about this. JHill always hears about me and my brother talk about the Lakers because we big Laker fans. So I think that like Anthony Davis, like he is like the prime example of, man, he can guard 1 through 5, can guard you in the post, can guard you in the perimeter, can really be mobile, man. So I had to give a little Anthony Davis reference there. But to talk about the most important player, I actually am going to show some love to the Clippers, man. I got to go with Paul George, to be honest with you, for the most important player, man, because he's not even a 1A. But if he wasn't there, I don't even think they'd pull off one game, right? Like, I don't even think they'd pull off one game if he wasn't there. So, like, he stepped up to, like, I guess 1A-ish. I guess we can call it that. But, man, like, it's just without PG, they would be even less in this. They're not even really in this. We all pick Suns. And even without PG, man, they would be just totally out of it. Yeah. Okay, so last question here for this Suns versus Clippers series. Let me ask both of you guys this, man. So look at this, guys. Like, sometimes, we can look at these NBA players like they're robots, like they're like superhumans, or like they're just like they feel nothing, man. But at the end of the day, like these guys are just humans, man. These guys are just humans. And somewhere in the Clippers' mind and somewhere in the back of their mind, they have to be thinking, damn, our best player is not even traveling with us, let alone sitting at the end of the bench with us. Do we really think we're going to pull off 3 wins in a row and come back from this 3-1 deficit? My question I want to ask you guys is, do you think that thought has, came into their mind? Because I really do, man. And once you start doubting yourself, it's over. You might as well pack your bags up and go home right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we saw they battled back and forth. They put up their fight. I think game 2 was a crucial game. They were able to scrape it out in game 3, but I think we've seen kind of all the punches they've packed. They've been trying to fight. They've been trying to fight and stay afloat. But I think ultimately back on the road for game 5, it's going to be the end for them. Especially without, I wouldn't say their leader on the floor in terms of performance and example is Kawhi, and without him, I think they're dead in the water. And it's unfortunate because they would have had a much better chance. And like I said, I think they would have won if they had Kawhi, but I think it's too much to overcome, and especially battle back down 3-1 at this point. Maybe if they were able to be even right now, it'd be a different conversation. But just what they're going up against, I think it's going to be too much.
Okay.
So they're done. They're done for me.
Okay. Kai, you agree with that as well?
Yeah. I think it has to seep into your mind at some point. You're missing your best player. They are professionals, though, and I'm sure they've played so many basketball games in similar situations where one of their big guys is out, where they might be able to overcome that, but it just comes down to talent at the end of the day. They can maybe pull off another game, but I can't see it going past that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so I feel like we wore out that Suns versus Clippers series, man. So let's jump over there to the East Coast, man. let's talk about this Bucks versus Hawks series, man. Because wow, this is crazy. Hey, you know what, Cam? Before I even get into this, Kai, like, what do you want to say about your Atlanta Hawks, man? Because no way you expected this.
No, there's no way. There's no way. I put a bet on them winning their division. So that was pretty cool. I won that money. That was a complete chalk up. I did it because I'm a fan, Mm-hmm. And I guess I want to start. I just want to give a little quick intro to like the first round. That was what I was so excited for, because one of my good friends is a huge Knicks fan, and we were just going at it. And honestly, I was a bit scared. I was like, this Knicks team, I thought we had the best player, but they had the momentum, and their crowd, you have to give it to New York's crowd. They're phenomenal. They're hilarious. They're all like everything they're saying, the celebrities they bring out, it's just the chirps they bring out. They're so funny. And honestly, I was a bit worried with Trey because I didn't know how he would react to this. Sometimes he tends to react in bad ways in these situations, but he's proven me wrong completely. I've always been a huge fan, and that Knicks, I thought it was going to be a great series, and to be honest, Hawks just figured them out, and it was over from there. Like, they figured out Julius. That defensive coverage was just like, I was so impressed with Nate. I can't say enough about him. That series was a lot of fun, regardless of how quick it finished in. But it started there, and then I was like, oh, I don't know, like, we could beat Philly. That's when I got a bit of confidence. It really hurt when DeAndre Hunter went down. That's my guy. I think he's the second best player on the Hawks, low key, a bit of a hot take. His defensive like energy he brings is just phenomenal. Like, he's not a steals guy, he's not a block guy, but he will lock down your best offensive player. And he can score too. He can create his own shot. He can go in the pick and roll. He can do all sorts of things on offense and, of course, defense. That was a huge loss for us. Cam Reddish is coming back, and Bogdanović is clearly injured. So, but I think I got a lot of confidence, but it was a tough one when Dre went down, but I still had confidence with the Philly series. And I think the takeaway with that series was just Ben Simmons, of course. But then we get to this series, and Wow. Like I'm taking my Hawks, by the way, of course. And I was just like that game one. Wow. What a game. It was just all offense. And then game two, not much to say about that one, but
Game two was rough. Game two was rough. So
game two was rough.
So then let me actually, matter of fact, before we get into game one, I have to bring this up. So funny that you and JHill both, you guys met in over there in Canada in the 6th, right? It's funny because if you go back a couple episodes, right, like for Kai, you and the fans at home, if you guys go back a couple episodes, we did a prediction with these Hawks versus 76ers, and me and my brother, we both said we got Sixers. We was like, yeah, it's gonna be Sixers. JHill came out with a super duper hot take and said, I got Hawks. Me and my brother lost it, right? We lost it. We were like, what? You got Hawks? And he was like, even if Embiid plays. We thought he was crazy. So you know what? we got to give a shout out to that Canada love, man.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. That's dope. That's dope. You're right, Jay. Respect.
There you go. All right. So then, guys. So let's get into this game one. Let's talk about that. You briefly touched on it, Kai, but we can just talk about that drop coverage, man, because that's exactly how Trae Young almost put up a 50-point game and put 48 points and 11 assists, man. And the Bucks kept running that drop coverage. How did you feel about that game, Kai?
I thought it was a crazy fast-paced game, and I think that's kind of what Atlanta wants, right? When they're hitting threes, which Milwaukee can do too, but I think that's just that Atlanta Hawks identity. Their best player he's low-key not technically, but he is a three-point shooter. If you're pulling up from the range he pulls up at, you're a three-point shooter. In college he was completely a three-point. Like he obviously got to the rim and stuff, but I'd say his best asset was three-point shooting. And Trae, once he went professional in the NBA, it actually low-key he's better at the rim, but at heart he's a three-point shooter. His team, we got Herder, we got Bog, we got John Collins, great shooter, and that fast-paced style. And like you said, the drop coverage was tough, and I think Lopez he wasn't too usable, and he's an amazing defender, but it just got to the point where they had to switch that up. And that's just my takeaway. It was just the fast pace of that game. That was crazy. Looked like YMCA runs,
JHill, how'd you feel about that game one?
Yeah, you know how I felt about what the Hawks are doing. I think that we just saw that an early indication of, number one, the Hawks aren't scared, and they haven't been all playoffs. Was always a Trae Young doubter. Boy, has that changed? Kai knows this very well. I think that just showed what we've seen with them throughout the playoffs, and that's a team who doesn't back down to their opponent, is very extremely deep and very well coached. I think Nate McMillan is one of the best coaches in the league right now, just simply because he gets his guys to buy in. They're gritty. They don't back down. We saw when Giannis and Collins got tied up, and they had a few words for each other. But I think that just ultimately, I'm going to just say this right now, I think Trae is a player I trust the most in the series. I'm not going to say he's the best player in the series. I'm going to leave that I'm going to let the rest of the series do the talking for that. But I think he is the most valuable player for both teams. And I think we're going to see that in the next 4 games, because I got the Hawks in 6.
Let's go.
Okay. All right, guys. So let me ask you this about game one. This is what I saw when I was watching the game. It seemed like the Bucks were but they were more willing to give Trae Young the looks that he wanted, and they were just going to shut everybody else down. They were like, Trae Young can get his shots. He's going to get his shots no matter what. Let's make sure that nobody else does anything. I personally think that's not the right way to do it. I think you should shut down the star and make the other players beat you. Do you guys agree, or do you guys think that the Bucks did it a different way, or how do you think the Bucks should attack this Trae Young problem?
I think that I always struggle with that, because some series I'm like, this guy's gonna get his no matter what. So maybe we should focus on that, but that's not really a winning attitude, to kind of ignore the best star on the team and just let him get his. You're not going to win that way, especially if it's a close game and this guy is all warmed up. KD hitting, you let him get hot, you're not going to stop him. Good luck. So I think with Trey, it's just tough because he can hit you at every single level. His floater game is ridiculous. I've never seen him hit this many floaters. Like in the regular season, he was not doing this. This is ridiculous. He's so efficient with it. So I don't think that's the answer. And that's what's tough about the Hawks, right? They have so many different offensive weapons and guys that can create their own shot in their own way. Herder loves the pick and roll. Bogdanovich loves coming off a lot of screens, a lot of staggers and stuff like that. He can do a bit of pick and roll too. And I just think Nate McMillan, he's just done such a great job. So to answer your question, I guess I don't think you can just let Trey get his, I just don't think that will work. And obviously we kind of saw that in the next game when they just zeroed down on everyone pretty much.
Yeah. JHill, do you think the Bucks should let Trey do his thing or don't let Trey do his thing? Or what do you think?
I think that game one is a better option of what they should do. Just simply because I've said it before and we've seen before that Trey is one of the best passers in the league. So forcing him to be the scorer, especially at his diminutive size, and going up amongst the trees, it might be a better option than getting his other teammates involved and distributing and making them threats as well. Because we already know that Trey is going to get his ultimately at the end of the day, even at a smaller size. So if they allow him to distribute and let other players get involved, I think that'll be a bigger problem than just saying, hey, you go for 49 every game and try to beat us, or 39, and that's going to be less possible than letting him distribute and get everyone involved. So I think game one is what they should do, especially game two. I think that was a bit of a fluke. I think that was a house money game for the Hawks. They took care of business by splitting 1-2, and now they have the home court. So I think I think game one was what the Bucks should do, though, is allow him to beat them with scoring rather than distributing.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So JHill, you talked a little bit about game two. Kai, you sure you want to get into this game two? You want to do this?
We got to do it. It's not fair.
So let's get into this game two.
All right,
man, Kai, that was, I'm sure as a Hawks fan, that was hard to watch, dog.
Oh, tough to watch.
They lost. The Bucks won 125-91. Trae Young had 15 points, 9 turnovers, and shot 12% from three. Went 1 of 8 from three. And the craziest thing to me was that Trae Young was the highest scoring player for the Hawks with 15 points. So, man, Kai, if you want to break down, like if you want to just go off and just yell, go ahead, man. But just let us know how this game made you feel and how you felt about the game.
The thing is, I can't even yell. This is ridiculous where they are at this point. Absolutely ridiculous. I like. The city of Atlanta is by no means a basketball city, but I just got my cousins texting me, my dad watching. They never watch Hawks basketball. They love basketball, but they don't watch Hawks basketball. I can't complain. I felt it was inevitable. I got to say, deep down in my heart, I was like, I don't see them winning game two. And there's some games where you're like, okay, like the Philly game, I had a feeling they were going to come back where they came back from 28. I was like, nah, this isn't over. This is not over yet. I'm telling you, like the pace wasn't dead. With this game, the pace was dead. I knew right away. They're just bombing threes and just absolutely annihilating them. And everyone was off on the Hawks. And I was just like, I knew the tempo of the game. I was just like, okay, this is the one we're going to lose. And I just think you can come back from 27. I mean, that's insane. Usually it's like 25, but like once it gets to 30, 40, you're not coming back. Like it's just, that's kind of how I felt. I was like, okay, this is the one we're going to lose, and that's okay. We'll make our adjustments and we'll be fine. We'll be okay. I still believe.
Yeah, and I thought another huge reason as to why the Hawks lost was, Trae Young had 9 turnovers of the 22 Hawks turnovers. Man, that's all, like almost more than half that your best player has. And Trae Young is he's really one of those players that. This is gonna kind of sound dumb, and like, yeah, of course, when your best player doesn't play well, you're probably most likely not gonna win. But there are certain teams when your best player is not playing well, and you're able to hide them. You're able to go through another player. But the Hawks, unfortunately, they're not like that, man. I feel like when Trae Young has a bad offensive performance, the Hawks are gonna have a bad, like almost every single time. It will never be like Trae Young has a bad game and the Hawks were able to pull off a win. I don't think that because it's just the Hawks. Go ahead.
No. Finish with you.
No. I was just gonna say the Hawks' offense is predicated on Trae, but go ahead.
I definitely agree with the Philly and the Milwaukee, but I think if Trae had a bad game against Knicks, I gotta say, I think the team could carry them past that.
Yeah, the Hawks really clamped up the Knicks. They made Julius Randle lose all his money. He was about to get a max contract.
RJ Barrett, that's my guy. He's Canadian, I got mad for him, and I still completely believe in him. What an embarrassment. My goodness. I'm glad it was my team beating him up. It was just so embarrassing to watch. But I do think, like I said, in that situation, that's where your team can, in a first round, against Milwaukee, there's no chance. Because they're just, it's extraordinary that they're here at this point. If your best player's not playing, you're not winning that game. There's no way.
Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to highlight about game 2 that I definitely felt that the Bucks fixed was the fact that game 1 I feel like Giannis settled for a lot of jumpers, too many jumpers, and Giannis is just so much bigger than that Hawks team really isn't as big as that Bucks team, but just Giannis himself is bigger, stronger than most players that, on that Hawks team. So I think that in game 2, Giannis did a really good job of really attacking the hoop aggressively. And then once the Hawks defense starts to collapse, he was able to find shooters, and man, like the Bucks shot 38% as a team from 3, man. So with Giannis going to the paint and then the defense having to collapse and him hitting shooters and them shooting 38% as a team, man, it's just very, very hard to beat the Bucks. But a question that I had for both of you guys, JHill, you can go ahead and take lead on this one, is what's the key? First do the Bucks and then let's do the Hawks. What's the key to the Bucks winning this series? And then if you can jump into what's the key of the Hawks winning this series. JHill, if you want to kick this one off for us.
Absolutely. I think it's clear for the Bucks is they have to slow down the pace. They can't get into a running game with the Hawks. It has to be, like Kai said, a matchup where they're slowing, they're getting great shots on offense, really grinding out possessions, building it up, and then getting either Giannis into the paint and distributing, or he's getting all the way to the rim and getting it to the shooters, such as the Middleton, the Forbes, the Connaughtons, even Brook Lopez, and getting guys involved that way. I think obviously when Giannis settles for threes, that's what the Hawks want him to do. And then they can get out on the fast break, because chances are that ball is coming off and it's being coming off long. So, and then on the flip side for the Hawks, it's obviously getting up a lot of shots, getting into fast breaks, getting Trae on the pick and roll, lobs, getting stops off rebounds, and not having to take the ball out from under the net. So I think it's really two different styles matching up against each other, and it's going to be ultimately when teams go on runs. It's countering that runs, because we all know hoops a game of runs. Every team's going to make their run, but what we saw in game 2 was when all the quarters were even, but the one that stuck out to me was the Milwaukee with a 43-17 quarter in quarter 2, which can't happen. If a team makes a run, which, like we said, is going to happen, a team's got to counter with that, and the Hawks didn't have that punch, obviously, because they're off. But it's a battle of paces, and it's who's ultimately has the better pace is going to win the series. So that's the key.
Okay. What about you, Kai? What you think is a series for you? And you can go Hawks first and Bucks or whatever you feeling.
Well, I think Jade said it perfectly. I think you saw, especially because the last series the Bucks had with the Nets and KD, it was really slow. And I do think the Hawks shocked them in game one. You know, they just pushed. And I think that is ultimately the key for for the Bucks. But yeah, I'd say I think they need to have their two out of three of their guys have big games. I think that's always something they need to go with. Middleton has struggled a bit recently, even in the Bucks series a tiny bit, but he's come up big. And once you have Giannis and Middleton, that's going to be tough to stop. Or you have, Giannis and Drew, or Drew and Middleton. 2 out of 3 of those guys going off, it's tough to stop. I think that's the key for the Bucks to win. And for the Hawks, it's I won't lie, Milwaukee is probably a bit more talented, but I truly think the Hawks can win just because, I don't know, it's just the way the NBA has been going lately. It's just anything can happen lately. And Hawks are an exciting team with so much, like I said, a great coach and so much offensive potential and a solid defense too. I do think if they're to win, though, they need Bogdanović to step up, which is going to be tough because he's injured. I don't think he's even gotten into double digits in the past 3-4 games, and they need Kevin Huerter to be like who he is, like how he is, as they say, they call him Kavan. We need Kavan to come out, and of course we need Trey. Trey is the one we're always going to go to, but I say Trey having good games every single game. He has to. That's just how it is. And at least we need a Bogdanović game. We need a Herder game. We need a John Collins game. We need one of those guys to back him up. I think it just comes down to that.
Definitely. And for me, I would say that the key to win for the Bucks is just like how you mentioned, JHill, is not making it into a track meet, just slowing the game down, half-court offense. And when you run that half-court offense, make sure to bully Trey on the defensive end, because that's one thing. Trey Young is a great shooter, great offensive player, but huge defensive liability, man. So if they can slow the game down and keep getting switches until they get a preferable matchup for them against Trey, I just think you need to just bully him, man, make him pay, tire him out on the defensive end. And for the Hawks, both of you guys, you guys said it perfectly. I think Trey Young needs to, every single time down court, needs to run off a high pick and roll. He needs to run off a high pick and roll, and he needs to have either Collins or Clint Capella running baseline from baseline to baseline looking for the lob, and they need to have the roller running with them, man. And I think that if they have that, and Kai, how you mentioned, the shooters got to hit, man. If the shooters don't hit around Trey, it's going to make it like so much harder, because like how you mentioned, Kai, for the Hawks to win, Trey has to play good. He has to play good. So if Trey has a mediocre game, which, he's not God, he's not going to have a great game every time, right? He's bound to have some bad games. We just saw Devin Booker, a great player, have two bad games, right? So we have to understand that if Trey Young doesn't pick it up, even if he has a mediocre game, man, if he can get, 15, 20 from these other role players, I also think that that'll be huge for them. So Kai, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think you were hit it spot on. I kind of missed that with teams haven't been focusing on Trey on defense. He's the worst defender I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
They got to make him pay.
Nick just did a terrible job with that. I can't remember. I don't think Philly attacked him at all. And it's
not at all.
Yeah, soft hedge, but they haven't even been doing that. And I think Milwaukee's perfect for that, because who are you going to guard? He probably has to guard PJ Tucker if Brook Lopez is on the floor. Obviously, if Connaughton's on the floor, that changes everything. That's solid. Trey can do his thing.
Trey's like that.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think it's so true. I just don't understand why these teams haven't been attacking Trey. We saw with the early days when Curry's he's much better than Trey at defense, but LeBron attacked Curry. That was their game plan. Just attack Curry, And
switch.
We need to see more of that. I think with Milwaukee, that's another key to their win.
Yeah, definitely, man. You You got to use Trey, man. You got to get him tired on the defensive end, or else he's just gonna light you up, man. So, guys, let me ask you this question. Same thing I asked for that Suns vs Clippers series. Who has been the series MVP, and who has been the most important player? Kai, you want to kick this one off for us?
Trey Young. I gotta say,
hey, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't ever doubt my guy. You know, I watched him throughout college, and that was my guy in college. And he just luckily, I don't even like college hoops. I just watched him. And I'm like, this guy is sick. And then he gets drafted to my favorite team. I'm like, what the hell? Perfect. So I'm never doubting him again. And I'm taking Trey Young both, I gotta say.
Okay, JHill.
Definitely Trey Young. I think best player in the series, and that's a hot take over Giannis. I think just what he brings to his team, and it's not even, I shouldn't say best player in the series. It's nothing comparing him or Giannis, but he's definitely the most valuable player to his team. I think that Milwaukee has more options just with Middleton and Drew Holiday, guys that can, take over the game for them, like we've seen in the past series against Brooklyn. But I think that, Trey Young, and he's definitely the most important player. If he's off, he's not playing well. He's not distributing offensively. And sometimes if he's not even engaged in the game as their leader, the Hawks are done. So it's just easy, Trey.
Yeah, man, I got literally right here, Trey, man. He's by far. I agree. I would agree with you, JHill. Like, you can't really compare You can't really compare Trey Young and Giannis. Like, just two different players. But I would totally agree with you. Trey Young is the MVP for the series and most important for his team. So, guys, real final important question: how many games and who wins?
Jay, you go ahead.
I got Hawks in 6. I think I definitely got the Hawks taking care of business tonight. So we're recording before the game, and I think that they're going to take care of business just back at home, and all that energy feeding off Quavo and the rest of the crew and ATL. So I just think that it's going to be too much down the stretch. I can even see that the Hawks going back to the Pfizer Forum with up 3-1 ultimately. So
oh wow.
And then the Bucks taking one back home, and then going back to ATL and the Hawks getting it done. So that's how I see the series playing out. But Hawks in 6 for me. Trey Young.
Kai?
I'm gonna go Hawks in 6 as well. Obviously, I'm never gonna pick Milwaukee. No way. I think one thing I will disagree a bit on. I low-key think they're gonna lose this game. I gotta say, I'm not sure. It might be me being careful and all, but I don't know. But one key factor is that people are forgetting is Cam Reddish came back. Cam Reddish might not be the best player. His efficiency is awful. I think he's shooting 35% from the field goal, but he brings it defensively. And I think he's just another weapon that can guard Drew or something like that. And I don't think people are talking about that enough. He can score too. He can shoot a little. I think that was a huge thing that he's coming back. I'm excited to see him play. And so I got Hawks in 6.
Hey, I feel you on that. I like Cam Reddish. I was widely wrong. I thought Cam Reddish was going to be the best player out of Duke out of Zion and RJ. I was wildly wrong, but I cannot agree with you guys on this. Yeah, I just can't. I'm still a believer. I agree with you. This year has been totally different, but I'm still a believer in that the better team usually wins in a 7-game series. So I gotta give it to the Bucks, and I gotta go Bucks in 6. I know you guys are both going.
I'm not mad.
Hawks in 6. I gotta go Bucks in 6 on this one. So all right. So Kai, as we close up here, man, let's hit these quick hitters here. So just feel free, just answer as freely as you want, man. So Kai, we know the East. We know who you got in the East. Finals predictions. Who is it and how many?
I'm gonna go with Atlanta in 7.
Oh, Trey Young gonna get his first ring.
Yeah, Trey Young's getting his first ring.
That is gonna be crazy.
How could I not though? How could you not? It's just I have to say I have to go with the Hawks. It would just be stupid for me not to because they're my squad. If this isn't the most logical answer, but I don't even care. I'm going with them. I'm not going to doubt them because how stupid would I look if they won and I doubted them? I'm going with Hawks.
I'm gonna sound clip this. Kai, and then if they win, I'm gonna send this to you.
Hey, let's go.
JHill, who you got in your finals, man?
Man, I love the Hawks. I love what they've been doing, and I also think that Booker. It's going to be the matchup of the two young stars, up and rising stars with Booker and Trey. But ultimately, I got to give the nod to the Suns. Just simply off the fact that CP with that veteran experience, he's hungry for his first ring. And I think that Booker is just a rising star. I think he's top 10 in the league, and we've got the chance to see that this year. So I think I got Suns in 6. And it's not to discredit what the Hawks have done all season. And I think we'll definitely be able to see them again in the finals. But I think ultimately I got to go with the Suns to taking the title this year.
And I gotta agree with you, my brother. I gotta agree with you, man. I just think that the Suns right now are just playing way too well as a team together. They're getting it done on both ends very impressively. And, I do want to mention this because every NBA player talks about this. They say that for you to win an NBA championship, it definitely takes some skill. It definitely takes a lot of hard work and dedication. But everyone knows it takes a bit of luck, a bit just, the pieces kind of falling into places. And yes, I'm a Lakers fan, but I also am an NBA enthusiast, and I've been watching every game. And the Suns have caught a lot of breaks, man. They've caught AD, they've caught Jamal Murray, and so we don't know. Maybe the Suns are just supposed to win this year, man. So I will agree. I will agree with you, JHill, in the fact that the Suns are going to win a championship. But what I can't agree is that Hawks, man. So I got Suns. I got Suns versus Suns versus Bucks in the championship, and I got the Suns. Ended up taking that one all the way, man. Bringing CP3 his first championship.
Suns in how much?
So I'd say Suns in 7. That's going to be a 7-game series.
7-game series. Okay.
That's going to be a 7-game series.
Finals MVP.
You said what, Kai?
Who's Finals MVP though?
Ooh. I mean, because JHill brought up a great point about CP3 being such a smart veteran, right? But without D Book, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it without D Book though, right? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know, Kai. I think I'm gonna have to take a rain check on that one. I'm gonna have to come back for this one.
Fair enough.
We'll take a rain check on that one, bro. All right, so Kai, man, out of the entire playoffs, what has been your favorite series to watch so far? Whether first round or whatever it is.
I gotta say, Hawks versus Knicks. Like I said, me and my boy were just going at it. It was so much fun, and this was the first time the Knicks have been in the playoffs. They're so sorry, and it's just so funny. And it was just nice to be able to talk shit to them the whole time. After that, game 2, when the Knicks won, he was letting me have it for a good hour straight. We were just in person. He was just eating me alive. And I was like, all right, this is what's going to happen. Julius Randle is not going to be able to ISO an entire series. He's going to start bricking, and the game plan is not going to change. They're just going to zero in. They're going to wait for him to go to that ridiculous mid-range that worked in the regular season. I don't know how, but in the playoffs, teams focus on that, right? And I was like, you're not going to be able to ISO with one guy for an entire series. And that's exactly what happened. They had no answer for Trey. And it was just so entertaining. And I got to say, I loved the Knicks crowd. That was so cool. If you guys don't know, Arsenal Fan TV. I think Jay would know that for sure. Knicks have this thing called Knicks Fan TV. It's really funny. And I just love that the energy that series brought. So that's what I got to go with. Okay.
JHill, which has been your favorite series in the playoffs so far?
I definitely agree with Guy that was a great series, but my favorite by far and arguably one of the best series I've seen in my life, especially from a Game 7 perspective.
I already know.
Maybe I might be a prisoner of the moment, but come on, that Milwaukee and Brooklyn series
that's the same thing I was gonna say.
Hey, John, that was ultimately for me was one of the best Game 7s I've ever seen, witnessed personally, just going back and forth seeing two great players in Giannis and KD. KD just in his element, game 7, hitting big shot after big shot, that fade away, fading to his right. I mean, come on, man, you can't script that any better. But I think that we just saw everything in that series from game 1 to game 7, just full of drama. PJ Tucker and KD going at it. The resurgence of Blake Griffin. I mean, it just had it all. It felt like man, I don't know. It kind of felt emotional after the game 7 because I was just like, we might not ever see a series like this, especially with KD in his prime, Giannis, James Harden, like all those great players on the floor. And it's unfortunate that Kyrie went down because, you know, what could have been. But that was my favorite series and that I've seen in a while, but definitely in this playoffs.
JHill, man, I gotta agree with you, dog. Like, and I'll be honest with you guys, dog. Like, I'm 22. I've 22 years I've been on this earth. I think that might have been the best basketball game I've ever really watched. Like, just as far as basketball, like as far as just the pure art of basketball and just KD. Oh my goodness, y'all. So I gotta agree with you, JHill. That game was absolutely crazy for people who just love the game of basketball, man. So yeah, I gotta go with that Nets versus Bucks series. So as we close out here for these last 2 questions, Kai, this is a pretty big big question. So I mean, but you can give us your quick answer. Who's the best player left in the playoffs? Because I mean, you could go into this a lot, but who's the best player left in the playoffs?
Trae Young.
For real?
I gotta stay consistent. Like, okay, let's do you mean like
just best player overall? Like
right
now, left in the playoffs.
But I mean, like, okay, I gotta go Trae Young. Who's been playing the best, or who is the best player?
To Kai. If Kai was standing at a court,
I'm going with Trae Young. I'm just gonna stay consistent. Okay. Logically, I'm gonna say Giannis, but I just gotta stay consistent. Trae Young, it's just the passing. I think that's the thing that just separates him from most. Like, he has to be one or two in the best passers in the NBA right now.
Yeah,
it's just
special. He definitely is.
It's like you. Every single time I'm like, that's a turnover. There's no way he's gonna figure out a pass. He finds someone wide open. Like, what is going on? And I think that's just like, his offensive talent is just special. Like, I just think it's on another level right now. So I'm gonna go Trae.
Okay, JHill, who's the best player left in the playoffs?
It's tough. It's very tough. I think that I've been loving what Trae's been doing. Obviously, I can't discount what Giannis has done throughout the playoffs. But I mean, we know who the best
JHill has a hot take coming. I see it.
But we know who the best team in the playoffs right now, and who I think is going to win the finals, and John, you as well. And the best player on the best team usually wins. So Devin Booker, Mr. Booker, that's the best player in the playoffs right now. A guy who's struggled the past 2 games. He had a broken nose, obviously, in game 2. But I think we're going to start to see more and more just that Mamba mentality. And I see it every time I see him play and he makes a certain type of move, and just that it factor that we're seeing from Booker. And I think he's really going to start to break out starting in the next game and throughout these playoffs. So I think he's the best player in the playoffs right now.
I gotta agree with you, man. I like, when I think of all these teams, if I gotta think of a totally complete playoff player, and I think of Devin Booker. But let me ask you a question really quick, Kai. You said logically I'd go with Giannis. So then I have here on my notes a follow-up. If any of you guys said that Giannis is the best player left in the playoffs, because I personally don't think so, because to be the best player, you have to be able to close games, and Giannis cannot close games. So if you, let's say that you didn't say Trae Young and because you logically went with Giannis, who to you then is the best closer?
Best closer?
If you logically went with Giannis, like how you were saying.
I don't think Giannis is nearly the best closer. Yeah. I'm thinking between CP, Trae, and Booker, obviously. I don't know. We haven't really seen them in those. There hasn't been too many. You
don't think my guy D Book is the closer, the best closer?
I'd probably go with D-Book, but I don't know. Yeah, Trey there hasn't been too many like down to the wire. I guess that first Knicks game, he hit that nice shot, that nice floater. But yeah, I'm gonna go with D-Book.
D-Book, yeah, I definitely got to give it to D-Book. But I only had that question there if somebody said Giannis, because the best player should be able to close the games out, and that's why I got to give it D-Book.
Can't shoot free throws, you can't close a game.
Can't be my best player airballing free throws.
No.
Can't be my best player. But okay, there you have it. Kai, man, thank you so much, man, for coming on. And we really enjoyed having you on this episode. Just getting to pick your brain and talk to you a little bit about the playoffs. Do you have any last thing to say about anything?
No, I think I just want to say thanks for having me. I had a really good time. It was really fun talking hoops with you guys. It was super dope, and I'd love to do it again sometime. Oh
man, we're definitely gonna have you on again, Kai. JHill, you got any last words for the fans or for Kai?
Nah, absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time, Kai, on such short notice. But no, I think this is great. I'm excited to see what happens the rest of these series. We got some good predictions in there, so let's get it. This is the best time for basketball. The ratings are up. The numbers speak for themselves. Best ratings since 2002. So let's get it. Enjoy, y'all.
Facts, man. Like Hov said, man, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Numbers is up because it's the best time. It's the best time in the year, man. So as always, you guys don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you guys go follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I'll put it right here. And it's at Clutch Talk 1. If you guys want to follow us, for those of you guys that are on the podcast, make sure you guys will give us a follow. We're always posting stuff about podcast information and when we're going to post and all of that. And Kai, do you have anything you want to plug? You got some Instagrams you want to shout out or anything like that?
If you want, you can go. This is kind of to Nipissing. I just graduated, but I formed a club for Black students, and it's called New Base. So one of our, we know him, Tejan, he's the president, and maybe go give them a follow. We do some cool stuff. We have some pretty useful information, but that's the only thing I can think of. I appreciate that, though.
Most definitely, man. So what's it called? A New Base?
Yeah, it sounds for Nipissing University Black Association for Student Expression.
Man, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, super dope. So yeah, just go show us a bit of love. I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And that's on Instagram?
Yeah, it's on Instagram. It should just be New Base.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, make sure you guys go show some love to Kai and New Base and everything they got going on over there, man. So that's it, man. Kai, thank you very much. JHill, man, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's it. We out of y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.